Time now to bring in CBS Sports NBA analysts Brad Botkin and John Gonzalez. And right now, y'all, the Sixers are undefeated ever since Joel Embiid came back from that meniscus injury. They're 2-0. Okay, so not that impressive. But still, it is good to see them back on the right track. So, John, I'll ask you first, what's their playoff look when you look at their schedule with 5 games remaining?
I like the way that you put that they're undefeated. That has a nice ring to it. But what's their look? You know when you shake the magic 8 ball and it says outlook unclear? That's the case for the entire Eastern Conference aside from the Boston Celtics. It's certainly the case for the Sixers too. But their opportunity has changed a little bit with Embiid coming back. Yes, he's looked rusty. He has to get in shape. He has to regain his touch. But the man had 2 months off, Chris, and he comes back. And as you said, they're undefeated. They beat OKC without SGA and Jalen Williams, but still, that's a good team. They go down to Miami tonight. They beat the Heat. They're half game back of the Heat now, 1 game back of the Pacers to get out of the play-in. Maxey was amazing tonight. They combined for 66 points. I think it's a reminder, even when Joel Embiid isn't at his best, and he wasn't at his best tonight, he was a minus 19, which is super uncharacteristic. But even when he isn't at his best, he changes the fortunes for that team. He makes them very, very dangerous. It's a reminder that they had the 4th best net rating before he went down in the NBA. I think once he gets his win back under him a little bit, then all of a sudden the Sixers could potentially be really dangerous, especially if they don't have to face the Celtics in that first round. Really, anybody else would do for them.
100%. Now, Brad, let me ask you. You see how much of a difference Joel Embiid makes, even if he's not at 100%. How much do you think it's likely that this Sixers team doesn't have to play in the play-in tournament?
Look, I like a lot of what John said there. It's difficult to predict down the stretch how everybody's going to play over the final week. They're right there. And they're going to play for it. They're going to go for it because that's a big deal if they can get up to the 6th spot and play either the Knicks without Randall or Cleveland, a team that's going the wrong direction. If they can get up there and get into a first round where Joel Embiid, not that they can take that series off, but might have a little bit of ramp-up time in addition to these final couple weeks to get his full rhythm back before they face a true title contender in the second round. So that's a big deal. They're going to go for it. But I like the way Embiid has looked. If you're the Sixers, he's been out for 2 months. I don't know how much more you could ask for than for this guy to come back and get 29 in 29 minutes and 24 in 29 minutes in his first 2 games back. John alluded to it. He was fantastic with Maxey tonight. The shooting percentage doesn't look great, but if you watch that game, I mean, the guy had a one-leg runner from the free throw line. He was 3 for 6 from 3. He had multiple face-up jumpers that when he gets to that high post elbow area and faces you up, there's nothing you can do with that shot. He got to the free throw line 12 times in his first game back, which is everything that he always does, picked up right where he left off there. I like the rhythm that he has. Nick Nurse's offense this year is all predicated on a lot more tempo, a lot more pace, no James Harden, no Doc Rivers. So I am a little bit concerned about that because Joel Embiid is the hub of that, and that takes timing, that takes reps. They had a lot of that cohesion going on before he went out. That could take a little more time in addition to the conditioning. But if they do get up to that 6th spot and get a little bit easier of a series in the first round, watch out, because John said it, the Eastern Conference is pretty wide open.
Exactly, and I can't wait to see how it's all going to unfold. Now let's talk about the team that they beat, Miami, right? They were down early, then they came back. You thought they were going to run away with it, but of course, the Sixers come through. If the season ended Thursday, John, Miami would be in the 7th spot. And looking at the remaining 6 games, do you see them avoiding the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, that 7-8 game is going to be massive for whoever ends up in it. I actually do think that the Heat could get out of the play-in and get into the playoffs proper. But this time of year is their time of year, right? I hate to say it, but like the Miami Heat, something happens as the playoffs start to approach, and then they get into the play-in. We saw what happened last year. They just sort of flip that switch. You know, the Heat culture thing is a little overplayed, but it is kind of true in a way. Right now, they've got a healthy Jimmy Butler. Bam Adebayo's playing well. Terry Rozier, I think, has been a nice fit for them, provide some really good scoring. And not for nothing, they're about to get Tyler Hero back, possibly as soon as Friday when they play the Rockets. And then also on top of that, the remaining schedule is the 7th easiest in basketball right now, whereas the Pacers, who are right ahead of them, they have the 11th toughest remaining strength of schedule. So if I had a bet between Miami getting ahead of the Pacers holding off Miami. I'm probably going to take the Heat. I think the Heat could actually pull this off, and then it would then be the Pacers and the Sixers in that 7-8 play-in game that would be absolutely critical, because the loser would end up, if they even get out of the play-in, facing the Celtics, whereas the winner, you get the Bucks, your Bucks, Chris, which I think is a much easier road with the way things are going in Milwaukee right now, which is not great.
Yeah, I was talking to Brad about it earlier. It's not smooth sailing whatsoever for that team. It's a whole bunch of excuses, lack of accountability everywhere. Brad, I ask you the same question, though, about the Heat. Do you think when the season ends, are they going to be in that play-in tournament, or do you think Coach Spoelstra and this team has enough to make it happen with that easier schedule than most, as John put it?
Yeah, I need John's 8 ball for this. I mean, we're really going out on a limb here. I mean, any one of these teams, we're talking about Indiana and Miami. I'm going to go ahead and say Philadelphia. I mean, they're, I believe, a half a game back, maybe a game back of the Pacers. I'm not staring at the standings right now, but they're right there. I think their momentum is the best of any team. Miami didn't look good tonight. Jimmy Butler didn't look good. Far be it from me. I do this every year. I'm not alone here. We always discount the Heat around this time, and they're doing that thing. John's right. We're all tired of hearing about the Heat culture, but it is there for a reason. There's truth in it. I wouldn't want to play them in the first round, but you're looking at their schedule. There is the thing they have in their advantages. We talk about the rankings of the schedules, but you really have to look at who these teams are, what these teams are playing for right now, and not what their record is for the overall season. And they've got Toronto twice to end the season. They've got Atlanta, which is locked into the 9-10 game. And they got Houston, who just got put out of it tonight for all intents and purposes by Golden State beating them. They're done. They're going to still play hard. But I think Miami has somewhat of a favorable schedule. I would favor them over Indiana. But I like the momentum of the Sixers right now, and I think it's vitally, vitally important for them to get to that 6th seed. I think they're going to play their butts off to get there, and I would give them actually the edge.
Yeah, the urgency is going to be at an all-time high right now. Let's look at the Western Conference, though, because at that number 1 spot, you have 3 teams who are fighting for it like their lives depend on it. You got the T-Wolves, you have the Thunder, then you have the Nuggets, who just went down to the Clippers on Thursday night. John, who is going to end up with that number 1 spot, as the Nuggets are just a half game back of the T-Wolves and the Thunder just 1 game back?
Yeah, I mean, listeners to the Beyond the Arc podcast know that I've been singing the praise of the Thunder all season long. They're ahead of schedule. They're super fun. They're exciting. They're young. They're on the come. The Timberwolves have been excellent without Karl Anthony Towns. I thought that they were going to absolutely fold because they needed that offense. So far, so good for them, 10-4 without Cat. But this is going to be boring. I'm going to go with chalk. I'm going to go with the Denver Nuggets that are defending champions. They almost pulled one off in LA tonight. They were down 11 with 7 minutes left, and all of a sudden, Nikola Jokic went, I'm the best player on this floor, and I'm going to prove it to you. He had a monster triple-double tonight. Mike Malone got tossed from the game. They didn't have Jamal Murray, and still they almost pulled it off. 4th in net rating for a reason this year. I think it's going to be the Nuggets. They're really, aside from the Boston Celtics, who've been doing their own thing in the Eastern Conference, the Nuggets I still think are the best team in basketball.
Brad, please don't disappoint me and say that you're going to go with the Nuggets as well. How about some love for the young kids? OKC.
I sure am. But you know what's interesting is, Chris, at the top of this, you led into this by saying these top 3 teams in the Western Conference are fighting for their lives. The irony is they're actually not. I can't figure out if they even care about the 1 seed. I think it's more a team like OKC, that John alluded to. They're confident, they're young. I think they're playing to just keep themselves going and keep the vibes going, and they go out to win every night, not necessarily because they care about the 1 seed. I know Denver doesn't really care about it, but I am going to pick them simply for the remaining schedule. They've got Atlanta, they've got Utah, they've got the Spurs, they've got Memphis. Those teams are done. Those are you can basically chalk those 4 wins up, and then they also have the head-to-head left with Minnesota. Now, Minnesota owns the tiebreaker, so the Nuggets are going to have to gain ground beyond tying up Minnesota. I still like the Nuggets just because of the cohesion down the stretch. I don't have to worry about who's playing necessarily. I know that they're going to bring it as long as Jokic is in there. And again, the schedule is so soft. I think Denver ends up taking the number 1 seed, as boring as that is.
Hey, they are the defending champs for a reason, and I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever. Brad Botkin, John Gonzalez, thanks so much for the time, guys.